Good evening. It's been more than 24 hours since the election results in both Maharashtra and Haryana, but we are no closer to knowing who's going to be the chief minister in either of these two states. Hello and welcome to the news tonight. I'm Zaka Jacob. Up first, the headlines. The BJP continues its standoff with the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra. The legislative party meeting is delayed as a game of political football is on between the BJP, the Sena and the NCP. Things are slightly better in Haryana, where the new chief minister is likely to be named tomorrow. Manohar Lal Khattar leads the BJP's frontrunners for the post. A day after the BJP's assembly election victories, as well as the government's decision to deregulate diesel prices, the Sensex soars more than 300 points. And 6 weeks with no fresh cases, the World Health Organization declares Nigeria as completely free of Ebola. So our top story tonight, a pikewind situation was in evidence in Maharashtra today. The largest party in the assembly, the BJP, appeared to be in no hurry whatsoever to form the next government. It did not hold the scheduled meeting to elect the legislative party leader, who would then present the party's claim to form the next government, even as the NCP once again reiterated its offer of unconditional support from the outside. The BJP's erstwhile ally, the Shiv Sena, on the other hand, said it had not decided yet whether or not to support the BJP.
A day after the assembly election results, two party offices in Mumbai presented a beehive of activity. But the single largest party, the BJP, did not hold any meetings to elect its legislative party leader, who would put in the formal claim with the governor to form the government.
अकेले अपने दम पर लड़ने के बाद भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी को महाराष्ट्र की जनता ने 123 सीट दी है, इसलिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेतृत्व में सरकार बनने वाली है.
Meanwhile, the new MLAs of the Shiv Sena unanimously gave Uddhav Thackeray the authority to elect their party leader in the assembly, although they did not take any stand on supporting the BJP.
Party Pramukh Uddhav Sahab Thackeray will take the decision accordingly. So you will come to know accordingly.
The Nationalist Congress Party, on the other hand, met with its party chief Sharad Pawar, endorsing the party's stand to extend unconditional support to the BJP.
मजबूरी कुछ भी नहीं है. अपने महाराष्ट्र में नया गवर्नमेंट आने के लिए स्टेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए. स्टेबिलिटी के लिए हंग जो असेंबली आई है उसमें कोई भी बारे में कोई सोचता नहीं.
The BJP expected to elect their party leader only after their parliamentary board members reach Mumbai, but the delay from the party high command deepened the confusion. Traditionally, the single largest party is privileged to seek the governor's permission to form the government. But here in Maharashtra, the BJP is delaying things, apparently to put pressure on the Shiv Sena to reveal its stand, although it can go right ahead and form the government with the NCP's outside support.
24 hours into the completion of Maharashtra's election, there is no clarity on the formation of the government. Shiv Sena MLAs have left it to Uddhav Thackeray to take final call on alliance with BJP or to stay in opposition. With camera person Jitendra from Mumbai, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
So before we get into the nitty-gritties, the muscle flexing, the political bargaining that's happening in Maharashtra, I want to step back. It's been more than 24 hours since the results have come. It gives us enough time and space to analyze what exactly happened in both Maharashtra and Haryana and how tectonic this really is. Smita Gupta is the associate editor of the Hindu newspaper. She now joins us live on the news tonight. Thanks very much, ma'am, for speaking with us. I want to cut out the hyperbole from the facts. I mean, there were a lot of things said in the media about the Modi wave becoming a tsunami. This is the end of coalition politics. Regional parties are going to be extinct. As one of the best political minds in the country, tell us what this election result means in terms of how campaigns are run, in terms of simply how elections are fought and won in this country.
Well, I wouldn't make too much of the Modi wave, but I will say this for the BJP and for Amit Shah and Mr. Modi, that they ran a very, very intelligently put together campaign in both states. They took a gamble of contesting the elections alone in both the states. In Maharashtra, as we all know, they broke a 25-year-old alliance. In Haryana, they broke with a much newer partner, the Haryana Janhit Congress. Basically, what they did, if we look at Haryana first, is that you had the Congress party, which had Jat leader, Mr. Bhupinder Hooda. You had the INLD, which was also a pretty strong party. It's been polling, between close to 28% votes over the last few elections. That also had a Jat leader as its face. So what it did was it looked to consolidating the non-Jat vote in the state, and that was an extremely smart move because from 1996 the state has had a succession of Jat chief ministers, Mr. Bansilal, followed by Mr. Chautala, followed by Mr. Hooda. So time was ripe for a non-Jat leader.
Okay, well, what about Maharashtra? We'll be coming to Haryana in a little later part of the program, but what about Maharashtra?
In Maharashtra also, you see, both the Congress and the NCP are both seen essentially as Maratha parties, led by Marathas. The Shiv Sena was the party of the OBCs. But this time, the BJP has been able, through its campaign and the way it has projected a variety of non-Maratha faces as well. You had Pankaja Munde, daughter of Gopinath Munde, who has been campaigning extensively, who is seen as a big OBC face. You had Devendra Fadnavis, a Brahmin face. So you had a variety of leaders, and this time those who, the analysts who have actually looked at who has cast their votes for the BJP, they say that just as in the Lok Sabha elections, the BJP has been able to expand its base in Maharashtra among Dalits, among OBCs, and among rural voters.
Okay. I'm just going to come back to Smita Gupta in a moment. I mean, it's not just the national parties, the Congress, which has been affected because of the so-called rise of the BJP. Yes, the BJP took away about 34 seats from the Congress, but also the regional parties. It took away about 15 seats from the Shiv Sena, and it took away about 17 seats from the NCP. I want to go back to Smita Gupta about this. It's not just the Congress that needs to be worried about this so-called resurgence of the BJP or this new formulation of the Modi-Amit Shah team, but also regional parties. What is the way forward for these regional parties? Because let's face it, for some of them, it's even a matter of survival.
Absolutely. We have seen actually, if we sort of, as you said, step back, till the 2014 Lok Sabha election, politics in this country was very much Congress versus anti-Congress. There was this kind of anti-Congressism. You would see political parties coming together with the BJP. But with this 2014 Lok Sabha election, that era is over. It is now BJP versus the rest. And I think all the smaller parties, the regional parties have realized this. In Haryana, this was very visible when Chautala's INLD got support from parties like the Janata Dal United, Janata Dal Secular, Mr. Ajit Singh of RLD, though he did not campaign for the INLD, he joined him in Jind for Devilal's anniversary. In return, he invited them to Meerut for a rally. Informally, if you speak to any of these leaders, they say it's not just a question of an alternate politics or an alternate, but it's just a question of survival. If we don't all get together on a common platform, the BJP is going to hold sway for a very, very long time.
Okay. Just to stay on with us, I'm going to come back to Smita Gupta in just a moment and talk about Haryana. And she touched upon Haryana briefly in our first part of our chat. Now, the newly elected legislators of the BJP in Haryana, remember, this is a party that's gone from 4 seats to 47 seats. They will be meeting tomorrow in Chandigarh. Among the many senior leaders who are in the race to become the next chief minister, one name that stands out is that of Manohar Lal Khattar. Now, he's set to have the backing of the party's central leadership. This is Shyam Sundar's report.
A relatively little-known BJP leader from Haryana could be the next chief minister of the state. Manohar Lal Khattar, the party's newly elected MLA from the Karnal Assembly constituency, has a strong RSS background and is an old hand of the BJP. In the past, he has worked closely with Narendra Modi when the now Prime Minister was a General Secretary in charge of Haryana. The BJP Legislative Party will meet in Chandigarh on Tuesday to formally elect its leader.
केंद्र से ऑब्जर्वर के नाते से हमारे वरिष्ठ राष्ट्रीय नेता पूर्व अध्यक्ष श्री वेंकैया नायडू जी वहां पर पहुंचेंगे। हम लोग सभी साथ होंगे। वहीं पर ही चर्चा करके जो विधायक दल तय करेगा आपको कम्युनिकेट करेंगे।
There are several other senior leaders in the race for the top post in the state. Apart from Khattar, Ram Bilas Sharma, the president of the party's state unit, Rao Inderjeet Singh and Krishan Pal, both central ministers, and Captain Abhimanyu are the other names doing the rounds.
जो भी नेता होता है किसी भी एरिया का होए, उसके वोटर्स और समर्थक तो यही चाहते हैं कि वो चीफ मिनिस्टर बने ताकि उनके क्षेत्र के अंदर विकास हो। लेकिन फैसला भारतीय जनता पार्टी के शीर्ष नेतृत्व के तौर पे वो फैसला करेंगे और एमएलए से पूछताछ करने के उपरांत करेंगे।
In Haryana, the BJP's big wins have come from mainly non-Jat areas, so the pressure to field a chief minister who is not from the community is also greater. If Manohar Lal Khattar is finally chosen, it will be after decades that the state gets a non-Jat chief minister. Shyam Sundar's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, we're still in conversation with Smita Gupta, associate editor of the Hindu newspaper. Caste is only one dynamic that swayed things in favor of the BJP in Haryana. But I want to talk about, a little bit about every time people asked why the Congress party cannot revive itself in UP or Bihar, there were two stock replies. One is that the party never had an organization or doesn't have an organization there, and two, it doesn't have local leaders. What kind of organization did the BJP have in Haryana? It's gone from 4 seats to 47 seats. Even now, after the 24 hours after the election results are out, we still don't know who's going to be chief minister. How did this tectonic shift happen in Haryana?
Well, in Haryana, you had, there was a strong anti-incumbency against the Congress party, a decade long. So even though it had a pretty strong organization, it had anti-incumbency. It had, there was a lot about land deals, especially related to Robert Vadra, Congress President Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law, which sort of, brought in the taint of corruption. And there was the battle inside the Haryana unit of the Congress party between Mr. Bhupinder Hooda and Kumari Selja. Maybe you don't want to talk about caste, but that was also about caste. It was about, because Kumari Selja, as we know, is a Dalit leader.
Okay.
And there was this sense that, political space was enough political space was not being given to other political leaders. Of course, Mr. Hooda also was not giving space to Chaudhry Birinder Singh, who was a fellow Jat and a first cousin. So
Vinod Sharma, there was a lot of
there were so many
rebels.
people left. Rao Inderjeet, who is now being considered as a possible chief ministerial candidate for the BJP, he was also in the Congress party. So there were a variety of combinations. But to say that it was about bad governance, I will not agree, because if you look at the social indicators and the sort of economic indicators of Haryana over the last 10 years, it's not done badly.
Done well. I want to get a quick closing comment, and this is the big picture, and I think again I want to sort of point the finger inwards and ask you, if we are all collectively guilty, and by that I mean the public discourse in this country, are we collectively guilty of underestimating just how much the voting public in this country just want to move on with their lives and move up, move ahead, move out of agriculture, move into the cities, get decent jobs, get decent access for education for their kids, hospitals, and just, like I said, move up, move ahead in life. This politics of aspiration, are we underplaying that in the traditional paradigm of caste and what other identity factors that usually influence the Indian voter?
No, I would say that it's a very important and a new factor, this aspirational class that is growing, the class that is moving out from rural India into urban India. That is really the, the aspirational class. It's a class that wants to move into the middle class. And as it moves into urban areas or, semi-urban areas, these caste identities do break, and that's when the class identities come in. And definitely for these people, jobs, especially employment, is important. But,
and that's a vote bank that clearly, at least in these last two elections, only the BJP seems to have managed to effectively
but I'll
attract.
add one last thing, which is that perception in politics is very important. And that is where BJP has succeeded, because the BJP's focus in both in the Lok Sabha and in the current campaign has been on, propaganda, it's advertising campaign, and we cannot understate the importance of this.
We're all eventually moving towards the American way of
Yeah.
campaigning, presidential elections,
Yeah.
what have you not. All right, Smita Gupta, thanks very much for joining us and putting into perspective all those issues, whether it's in Maharashtra, whether it's in Haryana, and to really, like I said, step back and with the amount of space and time that we have to actually look at this in a very dispassionate way and say what exactly has happened in these two states and what really is the fallout of it nationally. Now, talking about elections, there's going to be a significant change over the next few election cycles at least, and that's the effort to try and cleanse public life. The Election Commission has now proposed to debar any candidate against whom charges have been framed in serious crimes. Now, the poll panel further suggests that filing false affidavits, that could also become a ground for disqualification. These recommendations by the Commission come in the backdrop of the Supreme Court's intervention to instantly disqualify anybody who's convicted of serious offences. The proposal by the Commission has been referred by the Law Ministry to the Law Commission, which is working on making these recommendations on electoral reforms. We're going to take a break here in the program. When we return on the other side of the news tonight, international stories and crucial talks between protesters and the Hong Kong government all set to take place tomorrow. Will anything come out of it? That's anybody's guess. The news tonight returns in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the news tonight. Now, continuing with its series of big-ticket reform decisions, the Union Cabinet today recommended the promulgation of an ordinance to the President to resolve pending issues after the Supreme Court quashed the allocation of more than 200 coal blocks. Now, the ordinance will enable fresh allocation of coal blocks to both public as well as private sector companies, with the process being completed anywhere between 3 and 4 months. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley says the proceeds from these auctions will go to the states where these mines are located. Mining requirements of Coal India, present and future, will also be adequately protected. Now, in response to the BJP...
Whether it is the organizations of the central government or the state government, that is organizations like the NTPC or state electricity boards, coal mines would be allocated to them. As far as the private sector is concerned, the actual users of cement, steel and power who apply, a certain number of coal mines would be put in the pool and there would be an e-auction.
Now, in response to the BJP's massive victories both in Maharashtra and Haryana, the BSE Sensex as well as the NSE Nifty surged over 1% today to close Monday. The 30-share BSE Sensex gaining more than 300 points. It eventually closed at 26,429. The 50-share Nifty was up by almost 100 points, closing at 78.79. The surge was attributed to the stellar performance of the BJP in the assembly elections, as well as, and let's not forget this happened over the weekend, the government deregulating diesel prices. So as a result, today's big winners were ONGC, Hindalco, Tata Motors, Axis Bank and L&T. Some of the major losers were in the IT space, Wipro, Infosys, TCS, all the big names in the IT space, as well as some big names on the Nifty, ITC and Reliance. Rahul Gandhi was in Odisha today visiting the cyclone-hit areas, a day after he took stock of the situation in Andhra Pradesh. The Congress Vice President expressed solidarity with the victims of Cyclone Hudhud. He assured them that his party would mount pressure on the centre to ensure that maximum assistance is given to those affected.
As Andhra Pradesh and Odisha struggle to come to terms with the extent of the disaster unleashed by Cyclone Hudhud, offers of help have poured in and visits from leaders are also on the rise. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi visited the affected areas of Odisha on Monday.
यहाँ के लोगों से डायरेक्टली पूछना चाह रहा था, समझना चाह रहा था कि नुकसान क्या हुआ, अपने आंखों से देखना चाह रहा था। हम सरकार पर दबाव डालेंगे, उड़ीसा का सरकार का काम है, तो उन पर दबाव डालेंगे, मगर हम यहाँ इनके साथ इनके दुख में खड़े होने आए हैं।
Rahul also met farmers who had suffered extensive damages in Koraput district. Gandhi's Odisha visit comes a day after he conducted a roadshow in the cyclone-affected areas of Andhra Pradesh.
राहुल जी आने की वजह से एक नया जोश आ गया। हालांकि एक वीक से लोगों को इतना मुश्किलों में थे, पानी नहीं था, करंट नहीं था, सब जगह उनका प्रॉब्लम था।
41 people died after the cyclone hit the east coast, while over 150,000 people were forced to abandon their homes. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some international stories now. The World Health Organization has declared Nigeria as free of Ebola. This is after a 42-day period with no new cases emerging. Nigeria is now the second country after Senegal to be declared Ebola-free just in the last week alone. The European Union, meanwhile, will soon appoint an official to coordinate its efforts against this deadly disease.
The World Health Organization has declared Nigeria free of the deadly Ebola virus after 6 weeks with no new cases, an achievement with lessons for countries still struggling to contain the deadly virus.
This is a spectacular success story that shows to the world that Ebola can be contained. But we must be clear that we only won a battle. The war will only end when West Africa is also declared free of Ebola.
This year's Ebola outbreak, the worst on record, has killed over 4,500 people across the 3 most affected countries, Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone. Its arrival in Nigeria's capital Lagos, an overcrowded city of 21 million people, sparked fears of a doomsday scenario when it would become impossible to contain. In all, 8 people died of Ebola in Lagos, while nearly 900 people were monitored for signs of the disease. Meanwhile, the Spanish nurse who contracted Ebola while caring for 2 infected priests in a Madrid hospital is considered cured of the virus. She will remain in hospital until she has fully recovered.
A partir de la PCR que se haga mañana, si continúa siendo negativa, consideraremos que en principio la paciente está curada de la infección, sabiendo que todas las infecciones virales pueden tener fluctuaciones debido a muchos factores y hay que tener mucho cuidado con la interpretación de los resultados.
The European Union has meanwhile agreed to appoint a coordinator to round up its response to the world's worst outbreak of Ebola. In the US, the 21-day quarantine period has ended for those who were in close contact with Thomas Eric Duncan, Ebola's first victim in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's shift focus to Hong Kong now in hopes of easing what is the worst political crisis there since 1997, which is when Hong Kong was given back to the Chinese mainland. That rests now on the talks which are due to begin between the government and student protest leaders. Those talks are scheduled to happen tomorrow. They will be broadcast live. But many are not expecting too much headway to happen in those talks. Both sides are still poles apart on just how the city is going to elect its next leader come 2017.
This is ground zero in the Hong Kong protests. The working class neighborhood of Mong Kok on Kowloon Island. The streets here are littered with the scars of battle. Student protesters and the police engaged in bloody battles over the weekend. And now, after the clashes, there's an uneasy calm. Now the bone of contention between the 2 warring sides is the involvement of a foreign hand. Hong Kong authorities insist much of these protests are incited from abroad, a charge that the students vehemently deny.
The most important thing is that in this movement is all about Hong Kong people. The Hong Kong people come out because they think they need democracy, they need to protect the students, not the foreign power telling the people to come out because of the students.
At least if the world is watching and the PRC needs face, then maybe we are a little bit safer. Otherwise, there will be another Tiananmen Square massacre.
On Tuesday, student leaders and the Hong Kong government will sit down to talk. They're hoping to find a solution to this 3-week-long standoff. But after a false start a couple of days ago, no one is expecting any major breakthrough. On the eve of the talks, yet another stern reminder from Beijing.
大家也都看到了，国际上呢，的确有一些人、有一些势力企图干预香港的事务，对香港的发展呢来施加影响，甚至鼓励、怂恿和支持。
Amid protests in Hong Kong, China's ruling CPC kicked off a key meeting on Monday, but the events in Hong Kong would clearly be in the foreground. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's talk about that meeting. The Communist Party of China beginning a crucial meeting in Beijing today. It's called the Fourth Plenum. This meeting will for the first time focus on the rule of law. Now, as the political governance system evolves in China, the Communist Party is seeking to place a legal system that will be insulated from the supremacy of the Communist Party. So far, though, the running theme has been social stability. That has trumped everything else, and that many observers felt was simply a way of lending legitimacy to the party's continued grip on power. It's also expected to send a strong message to the rank and file of the party that corruption will not be tolerated. The plenum is also expected to throw more light on the fate of former Internal Security Chief Zhou Yongkang. But this year's plenum comes in the backdrop of the ongoing protests in Hong Kong, which have tested Beijing's hold over the city, as well as the famous thesis of one country, two systems. All right, time now to take a look at all the other international stories in Global Buzz. Big day in Indonesia. Joko Widodo was sworn in as the new president of that country. Mr. Widodo won a narrow victory over a former general back in July in the elections. He promised a clean government as well as tackling entrenched interests. Widodo succeeds Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, who served 2 consecutive 5-year terms. European Commission President Jose Manuel Barroso urged Britain not to isolate itself within Europe by picking fights over immigration. Mr. Barroso also made it clear that the European Union will never accept an arbitrary cap on immigration into Britain. Barroso will be ending a 10-year term as the head of the Union's executive body later next month. Pope Francis beatified Pope Paul VI, who died in 1978 after guiding the Church through a rather tough period of internal reform. The ceremony closed a 2-week assembly of bishops known as the Synod. It was convened by Pope Francis to discuss how the Church can best offer guidance to its flock in the face of complexities faced by many families in the world today. All right, from international stories, let's now get you all the sports buzz in Sports Beat. The ICC released its latest rankings Monday. Virat Kohli claimed the number 2 spot among batsmen, edging South African player Hashim Amla to number 3 place. AB de Villiers topped the chart. Bhuvneshwar Singh also entered the top 10 list for the first time in the bowlers category. He's placed at number 7 among the bowlers. Former sprint queen P.T. Usha will soon groom promising athletes in Gujarat. She accepted the assignment at the request of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Usha is India's most successful sprinter ever. She won 4 gold medals and a silver at the 1986 Seoul Asian Games. Peter Biakasanguzala, a 23-year-old Mizoram footballer, passed away after injuring his spinal cord while celebrating after scoring a goal in the Mizoram Premier League. The footballer fell backwards on his head after performing a series of somersaults. As he lay on the ground in pain, unsuspecting teammates jumped on him to celebrate before they realized the extent of his injury. He later died in hospital. The young footballer donated his eyes before his death. In tennis, world number 11, Andy Murray beat world number 5, David Ferrer, 5-7, 6-2, 7-5 in the finals of the Vienna Open. It was Murray's second title in a month. With this win, he's now in the last qualifying spot for the ATP World Tour Finals season ender. International teams gathered in Santiago de Chile on Sunday for the opening day of the 12th annual Homeless World Cup. 54 teams from 40 different countries come together to play shortened matches of 2 7-minute halves. The Homeless World Cup seeks to use football as a tool to engage with the world's homeless people. And finally, as we wrap up this edition of News Tonight, Shimla hosted a festival of classical dance and music last week. For 4 days, an enthralled audience watched some of the best artists from the country perform in the hill town. We'll leave you with some glimpses of the festival as we wrap up the News Tonight. We'll catch you again tomorrow, same time. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.